Hi, everybody. Matt here from Matt Likes Comics, and welcome to the Tuesday night interview show. Tonight, our guest is up and coming comic channel, UpandAdamComics. Welcome to the show, Adam. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
Not a problem. You're already getting quite the name for yourself in our little community there with your pictures you've sent off to Nate and to Hagen and to Mon Comics and an unknown fourth at the moment. But I'm sure someone will put it up and go, "Oh my God, I got a picture from Adam" real soon. I'm curious, what is your inspiration to do these pictures?
That's a good question. Well, I think when I was, I've watched a lot of YouTube before I started any of my own, started my own channel just recently, but, kind of my thought process behind it was just to kind of, do a thank you for those that paved the way before me and just wanted to, send them something out. I know, for Nate's and Hagen's pieces, if those haven't seen those, I try to incorporate a little bit of the personality into it at all.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it for me, I mean, I'm honestly, I'm not that great of an artist in my opinion, but I like studying the art form and sometimes doing those homage covers. It's really
Right.
like I can get to study why people put certain lines in certain places and looked at it that way. So it's kind of been a way to kind of help develop me further as an artist as well. But then just trying to do something funny and stupid with it all. And so I'm fine if somebody is offended and wants to ball it up and throw it in the trash. That's fine. I don't care.
I'll be honest.
I think to do.
I can honestly say that everybody's reaction was genuine, and they're absolutely beautiful pieces. Before we get very farther, let's say hello to Comic Nation and see who we've got in the chat. We've got Robbie tonight. Hi, Robbie. We've got Up and Adam. We've got Rich G. Hi, Rich.
Hey,
welcome
Rich.
to the show. We've got Chonko. He did this for us, he did it for you. And we've got Kay Munin. Way to go. Hello, Andreas.
This will be a ferret-free program tonight, Kay Munin.
And this is Big Nasty Comics. Rich is in the house. Speaking of Hall, here's Nate. And the absolutely wonderful Christina Payne is here tonight. And we've got Comic Mike. Hi, Mike. And let's see if there's anybody. Oh, we've got Celia from Gotham and Glam. Hi, Celia. And JX is here. Hi, it's good to see him. And Mike Dennis is here. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Mike.
Big Lyle is in the house.
Hey, Lyle.
And that's everybody at the moment that is in the chat. So I'm going to ask you pretty much the same thing I ask everybody to get here. What drew you to comic books? Why did you start collecting?
Well, honestly, from the very beginning, my brother had some comics. He's 10 years older than me, so he had a few things that I got to see. Now he liked to collect Classics Illustrated and stuff like that, so that he didn't have to read the real books. So I remember reading some of those, and Sad Sack and the Sarge and Mad.
Sad
and some of this
was one I read very early on. My dad bought a few of those too.
Yeah. And then I grew up, I remember watching Electric Company with Spider-Man, and then kind of, probably, I'm trying to think, Matt and I are about the same age. So it was around 9 or 10 or something. I think, we'd started to see a lot more Super Friends were on. And, there was, Spider-Man on Electric Company was kind of first for me, but then it was, Super Friends, and then Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. And
Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. I really liked that one.
Yeah, that was great.
After Super Friends, that was probably my favorite one.
Yeah, and I loved watching uh, like reruns of Batman 66 were
Yeah.
played, all the time. So I kind of grew up that way. And then went with my grandmother to 7-Eleven and then just came in and sorry. It went to a 7-Eleven. My grandmother, she told me to go pick out a comic, and I was trying to get as many characters as I could on an issue. But then that kind of got the bug, and I was like, "Ooh, I need to get some more money to get some more." But so I had a few here and there, but it wasn't probably until high school when I really started, you know, more collecting, and so I discovered a drugstore and found out when they actually delivered their comics, and I think it was on Wednesdays back then. I'm trying to remember, but
I think it's been, hi, Thomas. Good to see you. I think it's been 40 years since
okay.
comics have not been that Wednesday's been New Comic Day.
Yeah,
It's
so
been
I
almost
found out
my entire life.
like right when I got off school, I biked to the drugstore and waited for the guy to unload the comics and put them out so I'd sit there and read from previous weeks, and then while he was putting out new stuff, and then would get some, and then but that the drugstore that had this was probably a couple of miles away on my bike. So there was a newsstand that just opened up that was closer to my house, and
Right.
he started getting some of the same things. So I went there, met a friend of mine who it was kind of funny when you're biking and you have the bag, little plastic bag dangling off the handlebars. And I rode by his house, and he's like, "Hey, what do you have there?" And I was like, "Oh, I just got some stuff from up here," because nobody wanted to really, share what they actually were buying.
Yeah, I know.
And he
You
says, "You
hid
got
that crap when you were a kid, at least in our age gap. You hid that stuff. If you didn't want to, if you were older than 10 years old and you were still in the comic books, oh boy."
Oh yeah." But he was like, "Those are comics, aren't they?" And I was like, yeah." But then he was collecting too. So we kind of went to the newsstand a lot together, and then we convinced him, the owner of the newsstand, to start buying independent stuff, because that was right when the Turtles came out. We wanted
Yeah.
to get those. We wanted to get First Comics. I wanted to get Badger and Nexus and
Yeah.
Grendel and Grimjack and some of those things, and even the direct Marvel and
Mhm.
DC comics like Titans and Moon Knight and stuff like that, Marvel Age, Marvel Fanfare. Like, you couldn't buy those things unless you went to a
Right.
place that got them directly. And then the cool thing, the owner of this newsstand, he would get solicited things where, like, "Hey, you can buy back issues from us." And so I remember he would just say, "Hey, whatever you want, just buy it," and so we would get like really cheap issues of things, and so that's kind of what started it. But as you know, Matt, like, it was so hard to find information about like
Yes.
connecting titles and connecting issues and stuff like that. And where I grew up, we did not have a comic shop at all.
Yeah. I was lucky to have a comic shop in walking distance from about 1984 up. Actually, no, 83 up. There was, like, I mean, it was still 20 some minutes each way, but it was still walking distance. And I was able to go and they had a 50-cent bin. So I was able to get some of those 70s books, like old detective comics from the 70s and things like that, and because people didn't also know what values were. You'd see a book up behind the wall, and a wall book was $6. Like, that was a big deal back then.
Yeah, I remember my friend that took me to that busted me on buying comics. He took me. We had a comic shop that was an hour away in Roanoke, Virginia, and B&D Comics, and he's like, "Hey, why don't you ride with me and my dad? We're gonna go," and that blew my mind, just seeing, first time I saw a bag and board, on a comic. I didn't know what those things were. But yeah, like, I remember seeing, like Dark Knight wall book. I was like $20. I was like, oh my gosh, that is crazy. So yeah.
Yeah. And I remember back then too. I mean, I was bagging all my books, but I did not buy many boards. I only boarded every fifth book back then because I couldn't afford to have that many. If I wanted to keep buying comics, I couldn't buy the boards for the comics I had. So I would board every fifth one, and that worked for a while. But then they still started to go like this a little bit. So I started doing every fourth one, and then so on until I got to the point. By the early 90s, I was doing everything. Like I was doing every book.
But that's smart. You had to prioritize, pieces of cardboard or stuff I can read,
Exactly.
So that makes sense.
And also because like I had lucked out and I had a bunch of Silver Age books from when my uncle's collection that I originally started reading comics in the first place. So they being a different size meant I had to go buy 2 sizes of bags.
Oh yeah.
Well, after a while, I gave up and put everything in silver for a while, just so that I would only buy 1 size. But the silver bags back then were $1 more per pack. So there was always those. It's not like today where they're all the same price,
right?
Because back then the silver size were not in demand, like they are today. Like everybody wants bags. A lot of people, most of my friends did not bag and board their stuff. I was the fancy nerd because I put bags on my board. I put bags on my comics. So one of my best friends, he had about 400, 500 comics, all in piles like this, but not bagged and boarded. So they were starting to get the curl.
Yeah.
Yeah, that everybody, and I'm sure everybody out there knows the curl I'm talking about. So, which is fine when you're 11 years old and you don't care about the value of your comics. This was before, I mean, you're my age, so you know that period before Wizard, before everybody suddenly decided, oh, everything's got to be mint, no one cared as much.
Right. And I remember there was a girl that lived down my street that I got to meet at one point, and after you start revealing that, okay, yes, I do read comics, and more people are keeping that like tight community together. This girl that lived on our street, she was like, you have to come see my collection. And like to this day, I think about her collection because she had everything, Silver Age to present, perfect mint copies, everything bagged and boarded and organized. She made us put on white gloves just to flip through the bags and boards. I was like, she's got a fortune here. But she was, she was just like really protective about it, which is great. Yeah. But I'm sure she had like amazing collection before people were doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember by 1992, I was that guy who was like, you just ate chicken wings. What are you doing touching the book? Go, wash your hands, I became that guy for a while, and it was just, but I already washed my hands. Go wash them again. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make you big, and we're going to see some of the things that you brought with us tonight, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Yeah.
All right.
Well, when I was talking a little bit with Matt about what to show, he wanted me to show some art stuff, but I also thought I would show kind of my favorite DC books, knowing that I'm in the house of a big DC fan. So
we got a lot of Marvel fans in here too. Kay Munin is a big Marvel fan.
Oh yeah. But and I have to start off. I know on one other live stream I said something like, Superman's just not my favorite. So before I get disconnected and thrown out for Matt's channel, I do want to share. I did get this trade that's from the War World saga, and we had Philip Kennedy Johnson was the writer behind all of this. And we hosted them at my LCS, which is the Secret Lair Comics in Harrisonburg, Virginia. And I have to put some little props out there to them because they said, hey, you've mentioned your LCS before, but people don't know, like you own a key, like you can come and go, and I grade books and price them and do things a lot for that store. But anyway, I was talking to Philip Kennedy Johnson. I was kind of his handler
Right.
for the day that we had him in the shop. And so he was talking to me about Superman. And, I even told him like, hey, I haven't been a big fan. He's like, I want you to have this. And so he gave me this, put like for Adam with thanks, truth and justice, and signed it. And then he's like, let me know what you think when you get done with it. And I did really enjoy this one because of, some of my problems have been sometimes Superman's been too powerful, or some of his, people haven't been as interesting. But I loved how Lois was written into the story. It just a really good, and this made me want to like go back and find more out about Mongol and all of that.
Yeah.
So,
I like the best part of Superman is when they concentrate on his humanity.
Yeah.
Okay. And because he's not human, it is not natural for him in that sense. But he is human because he was brought up with two very high moral people who brought him up to do the right thing, or at least what they perceive to be the right thing. We don't know whatever. I'm not going to judge anybody's moral system, but
right.
And so his most interesting stories are when they go after that part of it, and his interactions, especially with Lois.
Right, and I think I know Philip Kennedy Johnson's coming back to write some other Superman things, so I'll be excited to pick that up.
Robbie has a question for you. Who are your favorite characters?
My favorite characters. Well, my biggest comic collection thing that I get is Fantastic Four. They've always been the thing that I've been most attracted to for titles and have the biggest collection of. So that's probably my biggest. I love, also like some bad guys. So I love, Dr. Doom. I love Silver Surfer. He's one of my favorites. But I like Kang and Mephisto. a lot of weird characters out there. Moon Knight is one of my favorites too.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Kang was the villain they were trying to make big in the Marvel universe that just didn't work, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He was the bad guy in Loki, right?
Right. Okay. Yeah. But but I always like Kang has a lot of personalities, and his first, he was in Avengers #8, and then he's been in he was Rama Tut and kind of some of that stuff in the back. So I've just loved all iterations of Kang as well. So another DC book, and this is a Superman one, but I have to show off. I like getting weird books, and so I call this the pillow biter.
I did a video on that that involved that book.
Yeah. So
the thing, I did the whole storyline involved with the kid, with Jonathan Ross, and it's true that really looks bad. It does, but not as bad as the Rifleman, but bad.
Yeah. And then for DC, I've always really liked Batman's been probably the thing I collect the most of. One of my favorite covers is the 227.
Yes, Batman 220. Homage to Batman Detective 31.
Yeah. But this is that I love this cover so much. So, and then
have you read the book? Have you read the story? The story is great.
Oh yeah, absolutely great. Yeah. And then next I have Batman Night of the Reaper, and I got it signed up there by Denny O'Neil. So
very nice.
But this is this Reaper is one of my favorite artists that you'll hear me talk about a lot is Bernie Wrightson, and he kind of did the character design, I believe, for the Reaper. So that was
I believe that's true. Yes.
Yeah.
Wrightson did a lot of DC then.
Yeah. Another favorite cover of mine is the 251.
Neil Adams.
This one I have, Denny O'Neil here and Neil Adams signed it there. My plan was to get Neil Adams to sign this one the next time I saw him, but that unfortunately didn't happen.
Yes. Well, I mean, I never got the chance to meet Denny O'Neil. He was one I wanted to meet.
Yeah, he was. I mean, I think this was the last year that he did cons, and you could tell, like, he was really not doing well, but he was very thankful, very soft spoken, just really cool. And it's good. Like, what was crazy is Denny O'Neil. I mean, he's such a legend, and
Yeah.
hardly anybody was in his line. It's like they just didn't know him. But I was glad to stand in that line. This is another one of my favorite Joker covers.
Yeah, that one's pretty popular.
Yeah, I just love the bricks, and it kind of reminds me a lot of that. Even though this is Silver Age, it just kind of reminds me of more like a Golden Age cover. So, yeah, I just think it's cool.
Very cool.
One of my also detective. I have this one here. That's detective.
I have
You have that?
Yes.
569.
That's right.
And I got this one. This is Mike Barr, Alan Davis. But I got Alan Davis signed that one there for me. So
Cool.
I got to meet Alan Davis last year at Heroes Con, and it last 2 years at Heroes Con, and he's such a nice person to talk. Last year I got a sketch from him, so I was excited about that as well.
That is really cool.
And then, of course, the Tech 880.
Jock. I sold mine.
Yeah, amazing cover.
I had to sell mine because my kids were so scared of that book. I put it away, and the kids still wouldn't come in the basement until so my wife asked me to get rid of it.
That's awesome.
So I did, and now if I find it again, I'm going to buy it and hide it.
There you go.
Although they're not young anymore.
There you go. Mm-hmm. This is my Bernie Wrightson rookie card. This is his first comic.
Nice.
That's
a good one to have.
179. So that's the first one that he did. He had a couple of magazines and some other things before that. And then, of course, it wouldn't be without a House of Secrets 92.
That is probably okay. Honestly, that may be one of my top favorite covers of all time.
Mine too.
But the thing is, the Swamp Thing is not my favorite character of all time. So, although I sure think that Louise Simonson sure looked good then.
Yeah.
I'm a big Louise Simonson fan.
Oh yeah, she's a sweetheart too. But yeah, this is back when she was with Jeff Jones before Walt came in.
I did not know that.
Yeah. No, she was with Jeff Jones and married to him. You'll have to read about it online. There was I think he ultimately became transgendered at some point.
Who's that? Sorry,
it became transgender. Jeff Jones did.
Because I know Grant Morrison has.
Yeah, and I know they had some issues at some point, and they split up, and then Walt came swooping in, I guess, shortly after that. But they all kind of hung out together in that studio. This is first Deathstroke.
Yes, that's one that's on my list.
Yeah, and I'm a big George Perez fan. And I loved Teen Titans were kind of, it was a book that I gravitated towards and collected all of that.
Back in the 1980s, if I missed an issue back then, I was really upset with myself. That I just loved.
I know there's been a lot of Spectre love, so here's my first.
Oh, the Spectre's great.
Yeah, and I have the the 1 through 10, the regular series, and then I have was it Showcase that he first appeared in the Silver Age?
He was in Showcase for a couple of issues. Then he'd had that series. Then he did 10 issues of Adventure.
Yeah.
And then he didn't get a series again until 1988.
Yeah, and so for me, I mean, it was kind of I stumbled across the Spectre and have just started getting everything. So so I got the DC special, I got these, But it was really, I read the Adventure Comics series first, those 10 issues, and that was amazing and such a dark character that made me want to go back. And then
Well, I remember
also getting
too.
that other volumes later.
The interesting thing about when Spectre was in the Adventure Comics, they added the word "weird" to the cover, so it was Weird Adventure Comics, but not the actual name of the book. It stayed Adventure Comics, and then as soon as the Spectre left and Aquaman got it back in 441, they went back to just being Adventure Comics. And before I forget, if you are a fan of the Justice Society of America, you need to buy this month's JSA 6. It is very good, and it will be a key at some point.
Okay.
You right now, out there.
Here's some more. This is the Swamp Thing series that came out after House of Secrets 92. I have all the Bernie Wrightson issues, but this is the number one there.
Yeah, and that's the one where he's actually Alec Holland.
Alec Holland, yeah.
So,
and then I think this was the best cover of that 10-issue run that he did. This is the best cover. I also like the Batman one where Batman's in the corner too, but you know, him doing interiors on that was just amazing. Then I got it's another Titans book, Tales of Teen Titans, and I got Marv Wolfman to sign that one for me. But first, Nightwing there.
Nice. That is really cool. See, if I had that book, that's the one I would have had George Perez sign, but I didn't have it at the time, so I don't know if you're familiar with the Titans book where he drew himself and Marv in a story.
Yes.
That's the book I got him to sign.
Okay. Oh, that's great.
I asked him what happened to the hair.
And then I thought I'd another, probably my second most that I have collected in terms of like a series has been Wonder Woman. And so here's a bondage target practice Wonder Woman. But this was actually given to me by my friend Jason. This was a birthday book. So I kind of keep track of, if you go to, I think it's Mike's Amazing World,
Yes.
you can type in books that were released or on the stands on the date or the month and start looking at that. And so this was the issue. It says October, but I was born in August. So that was what they put on for 2 months ahead. So this is like, you know, kind of has your birthday month, Matt, but this is
it my birthday month. Yes.
Yeah. But this is, you know, came out in August. And so he knew like I was going about trying to collect the ones that were out on the stands when I was born. And so that was one there. And then I really love the George Perez Wonder Woman.
Yes.
That was one of those, like you said, Matt, was like one, like I would be upset if I wasn't picking one of those up off the shelf. You know, it was like, yeah. I had to continue that.
Yeah. I put, excuse me. I've put together most of the first 20 from that series because those are the ones that I find were the best of Perez's run. Is later on, he just wrote and he did, right. The plotting pencils, but he didn't do the full pencils after a while. So,
so now I thought I would show off some art, since a lot of people know that I do collect some art. And first things I'm going to show are just kind of some sketches that got done. So if those of you are familiar with Marvel Superhero Secret Wars, the issue number 10 with Dr. Doom, like I said, Dr. Doom's one of my favorites. On CAF, Comic Art Fans, every year, I believe it's in May, they do an online art sale that they host. It's like a virtual con, and you can commission different people to do pieces of art for you. And so I picked up, this is Giorgio Camolo, and this is his version of doing like Secret Wars number 10, where Doom's
very nice
is kind of melted off there. but this is the rough. This is the rough piece, and then this is he sent the roughs along with his original piece. So this is his original.
Nice.
Yeah, his detail. He's an Italian artist, of course, with the name Giorgio Camolo, but really does some kind of cool Kirby-esque style art. But I was really glad to get this. I think it was like $100 to get this. So
that's a pretty good price for that. That's
yeah.
amazing.
So check out the CAF sales, like when they do that online auction, because you can find some really good deals from some really great people. An artist that's kind of become a friend of mine through time is Stefan Roux. He is
that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, he's a French artist, but he lives in, I want to say, I think he's living in Tennessee, if I'm right. But this, I had contacted him a while ago. I've met him at a few cons. I wanted, at the time, I was like, I only have enough money to do like a head sketch, so I was like, let me know what that is. And so, paid for it. And then he brings me this, and I'm just like, good gosh. It's like, this is way beyond a head sketch, but, and he wouldn't take any money for it. He was like, no, this is for you. I enjoyed doing it. He has a big, like life-size thing in his art studio. And so he's like, I'm looking at this every day. So he's like, it was kind of fun to draw it. So if you ever had a chance to meet him, one of the nicest artists. He's usually at Heroes every year. I know a bunch of people are going to Heroes. But Stefan's wonderful. Yeah.
It's a great piece, Nate, but it's no Natzler.
It's no Natzler. Yeah. And then I thought I'd bring like a few actual pages of art that I have purchased. For those that like collecting this is a Steve Epting page, and kind of one of my goals was to try to get a Fantastic Four page from the initial run. But this has Hagen's favorite Namor. It's a big Atlantis page, but Steve Epting's inking and just how he draws is just phenomenal. So when I saw this at a con, art dealer had it. I think Spencer Beck, I think, is usually somebody that repped a lot of his stuff, and he had this in a binder, and I was like, yeah. Or no, it was Anthony's Comic Art, and that's where I got it from. But that was like a must grab. And then I also, like I said, one of my favorite characters has also been Moon Knight. And I always wanted to have an original Moon Knight page. Right. And so I did get, this is a David Finch Moon Knight page.
Nice.
Now it's really just him and Steve Rogers talking. And as you can see, there's a panel missing here. This had a big statue of Khonshu. So at some point, I'm going to try to get him to draw something in there next.
I'm guessing that they hadn't put the lettering in yet.
Yeah, none of the lettering's in there, but this was like a big statue of Khonshu piece in there. But I got this directly from David Finch. This was one of his last two pages of Moon Knight that he owned. So
nice.
He only had this and another one, and so I got this from him. And I also, you know how much David Finch charges normally. I think this was like $125 or something like that. It was pretty cheap, and getting it directly from the artist probably helped.
You were frozen there for a minute. I think we're going to end up with somebody named Frozen Adam real soon.
Oh no, my internet can be spotty. And then this is a page. This is from the more recent Fantastic Four. It's number 34. This is 2 pages. It's actually, the story behind this is, if any of you are reading Fantastic Four, I know a lot of people aren't, but
I am.
But in Fantastic Four, Dr. Doom was getting married. Yep. And the Human Torch had actually slept with Doom's fiance. And
anyone he hasn't slept with?
There's not many. But this is at the altar, the moment right after she tells Dr. Doom at the altar that she slept with Johnny Storm.
Yeah.
So these 2 pages, like, he hears it, and then he just kind of unleashes hell upon the Fantastic Four and Namor. And so that was really cool. And I got this from RB Silva.
Very
He's
nice.
located in Argentina.
Right.
And when I got this from him, he's like, "Hey, I'll include a head sketch." And I was like, "Well, since this is like a double page, can I have two? You know, it doesn't hurt to ask." And so he drew a Doctor Doom on the side and also a Galactus. So
that is really cool.
Yeah,
that is an interesting storyline to begin with.
Yeah. So
and I remember going, "Oh, not again!" When she's like, you find out that her and Johnny had a thing, and it was like, all I could think of is he is such a male. Let's just say bed jumper and keep it YouTube friendly.
I almost bought the page where it has Doom is coming into her bedroom in a hologram, and Johnny is underneath the bed, looking up like all scared. And I almost got that, but I was like, I kind of want him just Breaking Bad on some people, and so I really like that one. So, and then I know Matt was kind of interested in me showing some pieces. I've shown some of this stuff on maybe some other live streams, but one thing that I also have liked doing with these homage covers, like I said, getting to know some of the artists and choices that they are making. But some of them I just like doing for myself. And so I have done a whole bunch with Dr. Doom, taking the place of different characters or different things that are going on. So my Bernie Wrightson tribute.
Nice.
I did the House of Storms instead of the South House of Secrets.
You know what? She does look like a really good Invisible Girl.
Yeah. And made her hair a little lighter, got Doom creeping up in the back like Swamp Thing. So that was a fun one, to do. And Bernie's art is just crazy to try to do, but it was just a fun thing. And then I did a Silver Surfer #4 homage.
Nice.
With Ben Grimm, put the Statue of Liberty back there. He's got the you probably can't see it, but it's Yancey Street.
Nice.
The street signs there.
I can't see it, but some of our fans might there. Oh yeah, there it is. Okay.
Yeah, but it's but that's also one of my favorite. Jake's accent. This is all with markers. I do some stuff with watercolor, but a lot of times I use just Copic markers, that type of alcohol markers. And then I also like doing some horror ones. So this is Victor's Tales instead of Witch's Tales, but there he is with
very nice
Ben Grimm's head and the bell. And so that's been that was a fun one to kind of put together.
Yeah, I love those. Like, it's just the ideas, the concepts, and doing that stuff. It's like I've always been a fan of spoof parody stuff, so anything like that just absolutely appeals to me. And that you can do that with markers is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, well, I'm just I'm penciling and inking and doing all that, and then just doing markers on it, and then sort of crime suspense stories. Got Crime on Susan Storm. And there's the classic.
Oh, what would have been cooler is if you made the body disappear and leave only the clothes there with her.
Yeah. But I always thought it was interesting here, like, EC trying to be cool and saying, okay, we'll just make it black instead of real blood. So, yeah. So those are a few pieces that I've done that I've had fun with. I have some other things lined up for
Comic Mike has a question here. Do you do them for people who want them?
Yeah. I haven't put anything out there yet for like commissions, but yeah, I'd be willing to try to do something if there's somebody who wants to hit me up and we can talk through that. Yeah, but it's I've enjoyed doing some of that. I'm also something that's going on live right now. There's 4 Color Fantasies is in Winchester, Virginia. they just started a comic art auction, and all the money goes to literacy program in their city, and they get donations. They ask artists through different cons that they go to, or people just request them, they get them back. And there's a whole bunch of needs his marker money. Yeah, I need a little cup there. But in terms of like people just donate comic sketch covers or art, and they use all that money to raise things. I have 3 things in that auction right now. I have one that I did a Something is Killing the Children cover, but it's Anakin with the Anakin in the room with the children with the saber just lit up. So I have that. I did a one for Farrell, but it's a Calvin and Hobbes tribute, but it's Pennywise. Hobbes is Pennywise in the sewer. And then it's become a tradition that every year I kind of make fun of one of the employees there. And so this time I did a Space Ghost, but it was a Space Ghost blank, but I made it Space Ghost coast to coast. And he's like
nice.
Pointing his arm and tell me about your superpowers. And it's the guy who works in the shop on the TV. So, but there's a ton of stuff like Chris Bachalo has a nice Rogue cover that people are bidding on there. But there's 188 pieces in that auction. So definitely check that out if you're looking to get some art from someone. It goes for a good charity. But yeah, I'm willing to do things for people if they're wanting to.
Well, there is one that goes around. I want to say that K-pop is part of it, but someone can correct me if I'm wrong. But there's a Comics Curing Cancer thing where they take art donations and they sell them out there. I know Cliff from Comics was involved last year because he did a show that was dedicated towards this, and he was encouraging people to donate directly to the cancer societies in Canada and the US. So I know that a lot of people do that sort of thing, and if I get names, I can forward them to you, because you should, if you're interested in that sort of thing, you should hit them up and send a couple pieces that way.
Yeah, be great.
Okay, we're going to wrap it up shortly there. So I want to thank you very much. Rob's, here it goes. Chonko says it's Rob Fatstacks. So,
okay.
Yeah,
I'll get in touch with him. Yeah, thanks.
Like I said, I know there was people. I know K-pop has mentioned it. I know Cliff has mentioned it. I didn't know who was in charge. So thank you for that, Chonko. When you give me information like that, having your theme song in my head all the time is worth it. Okay, so I really appreciate you coming by, Adam. Next week we have Mr. Thomas O'Donnell is going to be my guest, and we're going to have a wonderful time, I hope. Thank you, everybody who came tonight. Really appreciate it. Adam is at 45 subs. Let's see if we can hit him up to 50 before the end of the night. Okay?
Maybe I'll send a bill if I.
Well,
I told Matt I'm not bill worthy yet. So
thanks everybody for coming tonight. Nate's show is on at 8:00 for those that want to go on and watch it. I know that's what I plan on doing. So thank you all very much for coming tonight. My name is Matt. I like comics, and I hope you do too. Thanks, everybody.